right? And now we're going to do Chaf, the Menachem, this is the Rebbe's father's yahrzeit. We just in the previous year explained the Chesed and Emes in Haskalah, in creation. Emes is the truth of Hashem, Chesed and compromise with Eibush into the world. How do you say it in Avodah? He says like this: V'hinei, Mudazeis, it's known. There's two types of Yira and Ahava, and these two types of Yira and Ahava are the Avodah equivalent of the two philosophical levels: the truth of Hashem and the compromise of Hashemliness. Okay, what are the two levels? Harishenim, the first kind of Avodah Hashem and Yiras Hashem, Hein Hanilades are given birth, Mihatavuna v'Hadas b'Gdulas Hashem, from understanding and knowing the greatness of the Eibishter. Ubidvarim, and words and ideas Hamavian that bring us to the Avodah Hashem, the love of Hashem and fearing Him. Here's the point: when you love Hashem and fear because you understand the truth of Hashem, now what are you loving and fearing? Hashem, as you can understand Him, but what He is, you never met Him. That's not Emes. Veha Achrenis, the second of Yira and Ahava, 6 lines from the top. They come afterwards as a secondary dimension from above. The Bechinas Matana, they're a gift from the Eibishter. It's discussed in another place, and Bepashtas, this goes on the Chinuch Katan, the Agdam of the Sharichet Vemuna. Al Pasuk, on the Pasuk Avedas Matana Etenes Kunas, there is a Madrega called Avodah, it's a work of Hashem, which is a Matana that gives Eibishter gives a Kohen. In other words, after you reached the best you could reach on your own koiches, the Eibishter gives you B'matana de Emes. Shein midas ahava, which is the level of ahava, kahuna is ahava. The chaynu gam kim b'yira, it's the same is true also in yira. So the difference between the first ahava and yira, the second ahava and yira is the difference between pshara and emes. The second one is I'm loving Hashem and fearing Hashem, not because I understand Him, but because it's true. The first one is I'm not loving Hashem, I'm loving Hashem in my opinion. So now we have an avodah simile for what we discussed on the previous page. Just like there's the truth of Hashem, the Hashem is b'tzimtzum. In Avodah, this is Emes Ava and Ava, which comes from His abundance. You understand? In Avada, it's obvious that Ein Arech Klal Bein Harishenis, you can't compare at all the first Madrega of Ava, Sheitel Des Haseichel HaNivra, which are loving Hashem based on the intelligence of a creation, the Gabe HaAcheres, compared to the second one, Shem Abedi Yisbarach Shmei, which are the Yevishtas. And consequently, Hein, the second type, the Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, which comes from the Neshama, are called on the Krois b'Shem Emes. They're called true. The seal, the stamp of Hashem is Emes. Shehu Emes Ha'amiti. It's absolutely true. Like the Alter Rebbe discusses in Tanya Sof Pedic Yud Dalet. The difference between Sas Emes and Emes La'amiti. And therefore, any truth that exists amongst creation, this Kloch Hashi B'Gamei is incomparable. It's nothing, relatively speaking. You understand? So the Alter Rebbe just gave us 2 ways of understanding godliness and 2 ways of understanding Ava and Yirim. The truth of Hashem versus Hashem as a Machaya would be the difference between Emes and Pshara. And in Avodah, a difference between Ava that comes from His Bandanus, which is Pshara, and Ava that comes from the Neshama. So now what's the whole point? Every Jew wants Emes. We don't want to love Hashem based on His Bandanus. We want to have Emes. Verstehst? You understand? It's like the Alter Rebbe, Eiza Haderech, what is the road? A person should be I don't want to just love Hashem through His abundance. I don't want to. What's the road? That a person should experience this emes. And the answer is you cannot. You cannot through your avoid to reach emes. But what you can do is you can beg the Eibishter to give it to you. He know who it is. You evoke great mercies in front of the Eibishter. You say to the Eibishter, have Rachmanis on me, give me a shtikela emes. Alanitat shebenafshe, with the spark in one spirit. And what is the spark in a person? Shemidasa sheyankiv. It's taka the mid of Yankiv. Yankiv Avinu is the pintel yid in each one of us. That is mabriach mi'akatza lakatza, it penetrates and permeates from the highest level to the lowest level. Every Jew, not just Harav Rab Yankiv, but every single one of us has a nitzutz of emes inside of ourselves, which is called Yankiv, but it's Behelim. Right? The Hainuruma Milas from the highest levels, Ad Lamata Mata to the lowest levels, the Hamshech Emes Adishem, to bring down the truth of God Almighty, the Elam Hashav Hazeh, to this lowest world, the Choshech, which is dark. As the Pasuk says, even though I'm sitting in darkness, Adishem Eili, the Eibishter is my light, which is the emes of the Pintel Yid, which are there of Hashem's Chesed being infinite. The problem is, I may have a little emes in my heart, but it's hella. And the only avoid I can do is, I wouldn't call it sheket, but you can't call it emes. You call it tzvasem. You would call it partial truth, right? You would call it compromise. If a Yid wants to have the emes, he said it, wait, before we go on. So when a Yid is made a rachem rab to the Meibish, that his emes should be revealed, this is the pshat, titein emes leyankiv. Even though Yankov's Indian is emes, Yankov is ever pintal Yid. But you want to reveal the pintal Yid. That's like titein emes, the Eibush gives the koyach, reveal the pintal Yid. There's a story which is very famous in today's Lubavitch. That Heschel Zeitlin went with his son once to the Rebbe Simchas Teire. Ketei Lev HaMelech Bayoyin, after many lechayims. And he walked into the Rebbe's room with his son. His son was a little boy. And the Rebbe turns around. The Rebbe sees him there. The Rebbe gives him a smile. He says, Heschel, was wilt ihr? What do you want? So he says to the Rebbe, will dienen dem Eibishten Chotschik mit a bissel emes. I want to serve Hashem at least with a little truth. And he starts to cry. His son said, I never understood what my father was crying about. Let's take it in. So the Rebbe swings his hand and says, was a bissel emes? Asach emes. The Rebbe is very generous. This is not stam as the Rebbe is giving a koyach. But emes is the hardest thing. And it's the most important thing. And you ask the Eibishter to help you. So where does tzedakah come in? So you know what the problem is. You know what the formula is. The formula is you can't get the emes yourself. You have to ask the Eibishter to give it to you. Why do you got to give charity? Right? When you are me'eder rachmanos and you're neshama, the Eibishter should give you revealed emes. Tarachli is gam can be emes. The rachmanos has to be mtan emes. You have to say to Eibishter, I really have rachmanos on my neshama. You have to sincerely feel bad for your neshama, which is so very difficult to do, especially after you had a good barbecue. Even if it's your emes, how can an individual person's emes be enough to arouse mercies, to bring down not your emes, but absolute emes, the Eibishter's emes? And the teretz to this is to have rachmanos on somebody else. The solution is giving physical coins to tzedakah. Which is you're doing the act of rachmanos, not the feeling of rachmanos, but the act of rachmanos. Somebody who doesn't have a loan. To give life to those who are lowly. And when you see, when you feel bad for your neshama, we start measuring how bad you feel and how much you're feeling it. When you give a yid a dollar, no matter how you feel, you did an act. And you're doing the act of rachmanos. Creates a reciprocal act of rachmanos on the Eibishter. And the Eibishter makes that when you're me'eder rachem rab on your neshama, it should be mitan emes, so the Eibishter could give you midas ha-emes. But the Hashem me'eder yeshenim mekes nam Hashem wakes up those who are sleeping and he rouses those who are slumbering. Hein bechinas rachamim rabim, great compassions v'chasadim al yenim and alamim, and supernal hidden kindnesses that the neshama, the emes of the person should be revealed. Let's say me'ahelem alagili v'ha'ara rabba, to go from a hidden state to a revealed and a radiant state. To shine, in the light of life, that it should be brought down into the world and into the person, emes adishem, the truth of the Eibishter. And the truth of the Eibishter means not kibakah havaya tzorei lomim, the tzimtzumim of alakus to create the world, but the truth of Hashem. And in avodas ha'adam, it's loving Hashem, not because I thought about Him, but because I know Him intimately. La'ilam into the world. Says the Rebbe, v'zehu loshen zriyah. This is called planting. What's the planting? The tzedakah that you give is planting to be megala the rachamim. Hanem tzedakah, which is said by tzedakah latzmiach. And what's the reward for the tzedakah that you give? That the rachmanos should be mitan emes. And what's the reward for the tzedakah, which makes the rachmanos be mitan emes? Latzmiach emes ha'elyon. The Eibishter should give you absolute truth. Emes adishem, the truth of the Eibishter. You understand? So Givaldik is very nice. Mesudah that you get us a Kaddish. And the message is very plain. When you give tzedakah and then you wish to be connected to the Eibishter, the tzedakah makes that your wish should be mitan emes. And the Eibishter helps you, and you have an emes, a connection to Hashem, emes, mit an emes. And especially with tzedakah v'chesed emes, the charity and kindness of truth. What's emes? That's not repayable, right? The person dies, so chesed emes. The Yidden at Yisrael could not repay this kindness. She'esim and Meretz HaKedesh, we should do it at Yisrael, and the Yidden living there. Tibon, Evesi, Kenyan, it should be built and repaired, b'mehedem, quickly in our days, amen. Masha causes with this effects what says in the pasuk emes, that truth may edit from the land of Eretz Yisrael specifically titzmach sprouts forth. First of all, we plan the act of giving tzedakah, And then, v'chesed v'rachim v'rabim, hanesafim v'nilkatim l'teicha. It brings kindness and compassion that's gathered and collected in it. Right? So the first thing is the tzedakah. The second thing is the rachim v'rabim. He made it gamkin. It arouses also from above the credibility, the sincerity of your rachmanis, and the reciprocation, the giving back of that Eibishter, that it's made it gamkin chasadim alyenu, supernal kindness that's svunim in alam, which hidden and concealed bo. When Shekatav, as the pasuk said, the shetzafanta v'gemer, that marav tubcha shetzafanta l'riyach, Hashem hides it, and we reveal it through tzedakah. L'cheinina u'la'akima, to repair it and to stand it up. With our Shekatav, as the pasuk says, but tzedakah tikeinani, that you repair yourself, you repair the Beis Hamikdash through tzedakah. So what is the Alter Rebbe saying? What's main teeth and emes of Yankiv? Of course Yankiv is emes. But the emes of Yankiv is behelim. And tzedakah together with the rachim rabim makes it emes of Yeruba. You understood? You got it, Yankiv? Sure.